You're watching The Marketplace. Minority MPs are furious despite assurances from the majority leadership. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is not appearing before the House to answer questions from MPs. According to the business statement for the week and Wednesday's provisional order paper, Ken Ofori-Atta was expected to answer 16 questions, including accounting for Covid-19 expenditure. But this morning's order paper has the Finance Minister conspicuously missing. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante is following this for us. Kweku, any indication why the Finance Minister could not appear?
So, Daryl, the government majority business side have not presented any evidence yet or to explain to members of the House why this has happened. In fact, what we are picking is that this is part of why the House has delayed in starting. In fact, the Speaker of Parliament just came in like 5 minutes ago. The sitting just started. We are expecting that some explanation will be offered. I see Honorable John Kuma, who is Deputy Finance Minister in the House, but the Finance Minister himself is not here. These are questions that have been postponed for a number of times because the Finance Minister could not make time at the time the questions were asked. And so the minority were very much hoping that the Finance Minister will be here to answer some of these questions. And just like we've said, major of these questions that the Finance Minister was expected to answer is having to do with COVID-19 expenditure and how much government has spent, why they had to spend it this way, in light of accusations that government has been mismanaging COVID-19 expenses. And so it is expected to be a big showdown here in Parliament with the minority expected to forcefully push. We know that if you look at today's order paper, although the Finance Minister is not coming to answer these questions, there are some loan agreements that the Finance Minister is presenting to the House, totaling about $1 billion. And so the Finance Minister is asking Parliament to approve $1 billion, but he's not here. What we know is usually the deputy ministers will lay these papers on his behalf. But what sources are telling us is that the majority are going to insist that if the Finance Minister is not here himself, then they will not approve these loan agreements or they will not be part of it. And so it's expected to be what the minority have said, a showdown to try and make the point forcefully to the Finance Minister that he cannot take Parliament for granted.
Well, put this in context for us, Kweku, why the MPs want to hear the Finance Minister account for the money spent on COVID-19 and how much we are talking about.
So billions of funds have accrued to COVID-19 funds in terms of loan agreements, also some IMF and World Bank funds that they gave government to help government fight for this. And the minority have been pushing for an independent probe to demand that Parliament should constitute a committee to investigate the circumstances and the manner in which some of these funds have been expended. The majority side have been pushing back, asking the minority to wait until the Auditor General himself investigates this. But according to the minority side, it's important for Parliament, being the representative of the people directly, to demand these answers for their constituents. So for weeks, there was no kind of agreement. But if you look at the other paper, there's a question in the name of a majority MP, Honorable Frank Anodompreh, who is the majority chief whip, asking the Finance Minister how some of these funds have been expended. We know these funds going into $30 billion have been spent since Ghana recorded its first case of COVID-19. But so far, not much of accountability has been done. What the government side has always maintained is that Parliament can wait, the Auditor General will do his own investigation, and then when they have any concerns, they can take it up at the Public Accounts Committee. But we know the Public Accounts Committee's report are usually in lag. So the Auditor General will probably investigate 2022, 2021 expenditures the next 2-3 years. And the minority are saying that this is not something we can wait for. And so the Finance Minister has been pressured to come and present these $30 billion, $40 billion that they spent so far and tell Ghanaians why they had to spend the money those ways. We know that at the height of COVID-19, government spent millions of dollars on one hot meal for Ghanaians. The minority said that is not a prudent use of state resources, and so they were trying to get some of these answers. As it is now, the minority won't get the answers because the finance minister will not be here.
And Kweku, this accountability are much needed, especially when the economy is in dire straits. We are battling inflation and rising debt, and the government is expected to manage spending. Tell us a bit more. You have been speaking with some MPs. How are they reacting to this? And we need to point out that this is not the first time the finance minister has had to come before Parliament and then he doesn't show up.
Indeed, Daryl, for the whole of this session of Parliament, the finance minister has not been in the House at all. When it comes to loan agreements, resolutions, other papers to be laid, either his deputies or other ministers do it on his behalf. And so what they have been doing is to try and get some answers from the deputies, but they say that the deputies do not have these answers. And so I spoke to Covid19 this morning, for instance, livid. He's angry. They say the finance minister is taking the House for granted. He does not respect them. He does not see the work of Parliament as a major issue that he has to come and attend to it. And so we are expecting that in the next few sessions of Parliament, the minority are going to demand that unless the finance minister is here himself, no loans agreement will be passed. Of course, they don't have the numbers to do that. The majority by themselves can't go ahead and do so. But well, they want to pass some of these agreements without bipartisan support. This is something that we are looking at in the House at the moment.
All right, and Akando, as you reported earlier, even calling for the sack of the finance minister. Just before you go, just by way of recapping some of the loan agreements that are supposed to be put forward before the House today.
If you look at the other paper, we have the loan agreement between the government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Finance Ministry, of about $750 million to finance capital and growth-related expenditures in the 2022 budget. The second is a syndicated term loan agreement of a consortium of banks, South African Rand Bank, London branch, the Standard Bank for South Africa, and also Standard Chartered Bank. About $250 million or so. So if you add this together, you have about $1 billion that the finance minister is asking Parliament to approve so that government can use to finance parts of the 2022 budget.
All right, Kweku Asante, grateful for your report this afternoon. We'll be checking with you to find out how things go or pan out in the House. As we are told today, the finance minister failed to turn up to account for COVID-19 expenditure, amongst others. Grateful that you could join us.